The neighborhood of Willow Creek Estates looked like paradise on a postcard. Rows of identical beige stucco homes with flawless green lawns, sparkling community pools, and not a single blade of grass out of place. But everyone who lived there knew the truth. This so-called paradise was ruled by Karen Harrington, the HOA president who treated the covenants like holy scripture and her clipboard like a weapon of mass destruction. At 38, I was Emily Lawson, the newest homeowner who thought moving here after my divorce would mean peace. Instead, it meant monthly fines for excessive holiday lights that stayed up exactly one day too long, unauthorized bird feeders that apparently offended the aesthetic, and public shaming at every board meeting where Karen would sigh dramatically and say, "We all want to keep property values high, dear, but some people just don't understand community standards." I paid every ridiculous fine without a word. I smiled when Karen's weekly newsletter blasted certain residents for letting their trash cans sit out past 8 a.m. I even volunteered to help organize the annual meeting slideshow because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I played nice, the harassment would stop. Big mistake. Karen loved the attention. She'd corner me at the mailbox with that fake sweet voice. "Emily, honey, your lawn is looking a little uneven this week. We wouldn't want to start fining you again, would we?" Her deputy, Claire Montgomery, her best friend since college and the board's treasurer, would stand right beside her, nodding like a bobblehead. Both of them dressed in matching pastel polo shirts with the HOA logo embroidered like they were running a country club instead of a neighborhood. The night before the annual meeting was supposed to be simple. Karen had asked me to drop off the final version of the community progress slideshow I'd spent weeks editing, photos of smiling families, pristine streets, and her favorite before and after shots of rule violators who'd been brought into compliance. She'd texted me at 10 p.m., "Doors unlocked. Just leave the USB on the kitchen island. Can't wait to wow everyone tomorrow." I drove over my pajamas, figuring it would take 2 minutes. The house was dark except for a sliver of light under the master bedroom door. I pushed it open quietly, expecting an empty room. Well, I saw stop my heart cold. Karen and Claire were tangled together in her king-size bed, sheets twisted around them, laughing like teenagers who just pulled off the prank of the century. Karen's perfect blonde bob was a mess, and Claire's hand was resting possessively on her hip. But it wasn't just an affair. On the nightstand sat a bottle of the same expensive wine we'd all toasted with at last month's Welcome Neighbor event, right next to a stack of bank statements and forged invoices with my name on them. "Poor Emily," Karen whispered, her voice dripping with mock pity as she traced a finger down Claire's arm. "She really thinks tomorrow's meeting is going to clear her name. She's been so helpful with that slideshow. Little does she know we're going to use her own photos to prove she's been skimming dues." Claire laughed that throaty laugh I'd heard 1,000 times at board meetings. "God, Karen, you're brilliant. Give it a year, maybe 18 months. Long enough for us to siphon off another 200 grand into our renovation fund. Then we'll pin the missing money on her completely. Foreclose on her house. Make it look like she's the one who broke every rule. The families will thank us for protecting property values." Karen pulled her closer. "Exactly. This whole board thing, it's just easier this way. Everyone expects the president to be strict. But between us, we deserve the perks. That new pool in my backyard didn't pay for itself. My legs felt like they turned to stone. I raised my phone slowly, camera rolling in silent mode, capturing 15 seconds of pure treason. Their bodies, their wine glasses, the spreadsheets clearly showing HOA dues rerouted to personal accounts, and the fake audit reports blaming me. The recording saved straight to my cloud. My hands didn't shake. The heartbreak I should have felt, the betrayal of the woman I'd trusted enough to help, crystallized into something colder, sharper, and infinitely more useful. I backed out without a sound, the plush carpet swallowing my footsteps. By the time I reached my car, the rage had settled into a plan. Tomorrow's meeting would still be unforgettable, just not the way anyone expected. Back home, I locked every door and opened my laptop. The USB Karen wanted? I'd already swapped it with a blank one. The real files were on my computer now, and I started building something new. I uploaded the video to 3 encrypted clouds, then emailed links to an anonymous account I created on the spot. Evidence secured. My phone buzzed, Karen texting, "Did you drop it off? You're a lifesaver. Can't wait for our big day tomorrow." I typed back with a smiley face, all set. Big things coming. The audacity made my stomach turn, but I kept typing. At 2 a.m., an envelope slid under my front door. No stamp, no name. Inside, printed bank statements showing Karen's emergency fund transfers, photos of her illegal backyard addition that violated 3 zoning rules she'd fined others for, and screenshots of texts where she and Claire mocked residents who complained. A text from an unknown number followed. "You deserve the truth. Check your email." The anonymous account had more: hotel receipts for their board retreats, audio files of them laughing about how they'd raised dues 30% while giving themselves bonuses. The final clip was Karen's voice. After the meeting, "Once we're re-elected, the trust fund from the reserve account is basically ours. 18 months max. Then we're set for life." Whoever my secret ally was, probably another resident she'd ruined, they just handed me the ammunition to end this. I refined the slideshow sequence. Innocent community photos first, then building to the damning evidence. I added my own text from Karen praising my perfect compliance, right beside the forged invoices with my forged signature. At 4 a.m., I texted Mark Avery, the neighborhood tech guy who'd always quietly hated the board. "Small favor for tomorrow's AV setup. I have last-minute additions." Cue exactly 10 minutes into Karen's speech. "Don't preview. Surprise for everyone." His reply: "Anything for you. Eminencia." Done. The morning of the annual meeting dawned bright and fake perfect, just like Karen's smile. I dressed in the same blouse I'd worn to every board meeting, submissive, unassuming. When Karen arrived at the community center in her golf cart, waving like royalty, she hugged me. "Emily, you look radiant. That slideshow is going to be the highlight. You've been such a team player." Her fingers lingered on my shoulder, the same fingers that had been all over Claire last night. I smiled back. Today's going to be unforgettable. Inside, the hall was packed, 200 residents. Folding chairs facing the massive projection screens I'd helped set up. Karen took the podium, Claire right beside her like always. The opening slides rolled. Smiling families, clean streets, our shared success. I sat in the front row, phone hidden in my purse, fingers ready. 10 minutes in, Karen launched into her favorite speech. "We've worked so hard to maintain standards that protect everyone." The screens flickered. The first new slide hit, a still from my video, time-stamped last night. Karen and Claire in bed, wine glasses visible. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Karen froze mid-sentence. What is this?" The next slide, bank statements with highlighted transfers to her personal account. Then the audio kicked in through the speakers. Crystal clear. "Poor Emily, she really thinks tomorrow will clear her name." Gasps turned to shouts. Claire's face drained of color. Karen lunged for the podium mic. "This is fake. Someone hacked the system." But the video kept rolling, my footage, then the anonymous photos of her illegal pool, the forged documents with my name. Residents were pulling out phones, recording everything. Old Mr. Jenkins, who'd been fined $500 for a flagpole, stood up first. "You hypocrite. You fine me for a flag while you're stealing our money." The hall erupted. Karen's perfect composure cracked. She screamed at Mark in the back, "Turn it off." But Mark just crossed his arms. "Sorry, Karen. Emily's instructions were very clear. I stood slowly, voice steady. Keep watching. There's more. The final clip played, Karen bragging about the 18-month plan, using my case as cover. Claire tried to run for the side door, but neighbors blocked her path like they'd rehearsed it. Karen's voice cracked over the mic one last time. This is all a misunderstanding. Emily's been unstable since her divorce, but the crowd wasn't listening. My father's old friend, a retired judge, stood. I've seen enough. This is fraud. Embezzlement. We're calling the state attorney general right now. Phones were already dialing. The applause started slow, then thundered, not for Karen, but for the truth that had finally broken through the beige walls of Willow Creek. The chaos hit like a tidal wave that had been building for years under Karen's iron rule. She stood at the podium, mouth open, mascara already running as the screens kept looping the damning footage on repeat. This is edited. Deepfake. Emily, you're destroying everything we built. But the residents weren't buying the same lies she'd sold them for a decade. Mrs. Patel from down the street, whose bird feeder Karen had personally removed with a pair of bolt cutters, yelled out, "You destroyed my garden gnomes because they were tacky, but you've been siphoning our dues for your spa weekends? Hypocrite." Claire tried to slip out the side exit, clutching her pastel polo like a shield. But two dads who'd been fined for their kids' basketball hoop blocked her. Not so fast. Treasurer, how much of my $2,400 in compliance fees went into your pocket? The audio clip played again. Louder this time because Mark had cranked the volume. Give it a year long enough for me to get established, then we'll figure out an exit strategy. Make it look like Emily's fault. I stepped forward, phone in hand, holding it up so everyone could see the original recording still playing. I have the full 15 seconds, and the anonymous evidence that proves this has been going on for 2 years. Every forged signature, every illegal transfer. You both preached community standards while breaking every single one. The black humor of it all hit me then. Karen, the woman who'd once written me up for excessive emotional support animal fur on the porch, was now sweating through her HOA-branded shirt while the entire neighborhood watched her hypocrisy in 4K. Senator, well, not a real senator, but old Mr. Morrison, who used to be on the city council, stood and pointed at the screen. That's not just embezzlement. That's conspiracy to defraud. I'm calling the DA. And every one of you who voted for these two, you might want to think about new leadership. The slow clap started from the back row. The same residents Karen had terrorized with violation letters now rising to their feet. It built into thunderous applause, not for the annual meeting, but for the woman who'd finally had enough. Karen lunged toward me, her face twisted. You ungrateful little. After everything I've done to keep this neighborhood perfect. I didn't flinch. Perfect? You mean perfect for you? While the rest of us paid fines for grass half an inch too long. You were building an illegal pool and calling it board approved. Claire started sobbing theatrically, dropping to her knees in front of the podium. Emily, please, we're neighbors, sisters in this community. The irony made me laugh out loud, the same laugh she and Karen had shared last night. Sisters? My real sisters don't steal from me and then try to foreclose on my house. Security, 2 off-duty cops who lived in the neighborhood, moved in. Ladies, you need to leave. Now, before this gets uglier. Karen tried one last power play, grabbing the mic again. This meeting is adjourned. Everyone go home. But nobody moved. Instead, they started chanting my name. Emily, Emily. The same people who'd avoided eye contact with me at the mailbox for months were now patting my back, whispering, "Thank you," like I'd liberated them from a dictator. As Karen and Claire were escorted out the double doors, pushing past the crowd that parted like the Red Sea, someone threw a crumpled violation notice at Karen's feet. Another resident started a slow clap that turned into full applause again. Karen looked back once, eyes wild with panic. This isn't over. I'll sue every single one of you." But her voice cracked, and the doors slammed shut behind her. Outside the windows, we could see them stumbling toward the parking lot, arguing violently, their perfect partnership already fracturing under the weight of exposure. Inside, the meeting hall transformed. The band that was supposed to play after the award ceremony struck up Survivor instead. People were laughing, sharing their own Karen horror stories. The $800 fine for a non-compliant welcome mat. The time she'd banned Christmas lights, but kept her own illegal fairy lights. Mark walked up, handing me the original USB. "That was the most beautiful revenge I've ever seen. Your mystery friend dropped off even more footage this morning. Security cam stuff from the community center showing them altering records." I smiled for the first time in months. "Tell them thank you. Justice just got a little help." The reception food, paid for by HOA dues, of course, was now a victory feast. Residents toasted with the same wine Karen and Claire had been drinking last night. My phone exploded with texts, news vans pulling up outside, local reporters wanting statements, neighbors offering to help with the inevitable lawsuit against the old board. But the best part was the quiet moment when Mr. Jenkins handed me a new petition. "We're dissolving the current board today. New election next month. And you're running unopposed if you want it." I shook my head. I just want my lawn to stay the way I like it. No more rules from people who break them all. By the time the sun started to set over Willow Creek Estates, the annual meeting had officially become legend. The parking lot was still full of cars because nobody wanted to leave the party that had replaced Karen's carefully scripted event. People were trading stories like war veterans. The time she'd sent a certified letter about offensive holiday wreaths. The $1,200 special assessment she'd pushed through for aesthetic upgrades that somehow only upgraded her own backyard. I stood on the edge of the crowd, still in the same blouse, sipping a mimosa someone had pressed into my hand, feeling the weight of 2 years of silent endurance finally lift. Karen's golf cart sat abandoned near the entrance, key still in it, like a throne abandoned by a fallen queen. Someone had already stuck a handwritten sign on the windshield, "Foreclosed by the people." Black humor at its finest. Claire's designer handbag, bought with our dues. No doubt, lay forgotten on the curb. Mascara-stained tissues spilling out. The news vans had arrived in force. A reporter was interviewing Mr. Morrison about the impending criminal investigation. "The state takes HOA fraud very seriously," he was saying, "especially when it involves conspiracy and forgery. Those two won't be president or treasurer of anything ever again." My anonymous ally finally revealed himself when Thomas, the quiet accountant from 3 streets over, walked up carrying another envelope. "I've been documenting them for 14 months, he said softly. "Ever since Karen fined my wife for planting tomatoes in the front yard. That drunk text Claire sent me by mistake last spring opened my eyes. I figured you'd need backup when you finally struck." I hugged him tight. "You saved me from looking crazy." "Thank you." He shrugged. "Nah, you saved the whole neighborhood. I just provided the receipts." Inside the hall, the big screens were still frozen on the final damning slide, the one showing Karen's voice waveform next to the bank transfer numbers. Someone had looped it on purpose. Every time it played, another round of applause broke out. The old board members who'd rubber-stamped Karen's every decision were now huddled in a corner, deleting their group chat and pretending they'd never heard of her. One of them, a retired lawyer, actually approached me with a white flag. "Emily, we had no idea. If there's anything we can do to help with the audit." I cut him off with a sweet smile. "Actually, yes. Resign. All of you. Tonight." The party spilled outside onto the community lawn, the same lawn Karen had once measured with a ruler to enforce the maximum 2-inch height variance. Residents were dancing under string lights that had been banned last Christmas, but were now proudly strung everywhere. My phone kept buzzing with notifications. Local news calling it the Willow Creek takedown, Viral clips of Karen's face when the video hit. Even a meme page already posting HOA Karen versus. One resident who snapped. I blocked Karen's number. 47 missed calls already. And Claire's too. Their empire of beige terror was over. As midnight approached, I walked alone to the edge of the community path. The same path where Karen had once posted "No loitering after 9 p.m." signs. The ocean of lights from the houses looked different now, freer. Somehow, no more fear of a 6 a.m. violation knock. My house, the one she tried to steal through forged paperwork, stood solid under the moonlight. I realized then that I hadn't just exposed two hypocrites. I'd freed an entire neighborhood from the kind of quiet tyranny that hides behind polite smiles and rulebooks. Tomorrow the state investigators would arrive. The new election would be scheduled, and Willow Creek Estates would finally have rules that made sense, written by people who actually followed them. I smiled into the night. The same smile I'd practiced for 2 years while paying every fine without complaint. The revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was precise, patient, and perfectly timed. Exactly the way Karen had always claimed to run things. Only this time, the standards were real. The days after the meeting blurred into a satisfying whirlwind of justice that even the most jaded resident couldn't deny was poetic. By Monday morning, official letters arrived in every mailbox, signed by the State Attorney General's office, demanding all HOA financial records for the past 3 years. Karen's house, the one with the illegal pool she'd fined others for having above-ground versions of, now had yellow caution tape around the backyard while inspectors measured every violation she'd ever ignored. The same ruler she'd used on my lawn was apparently being used on hers now, and the irony made the whole neighborhood chuckle for weeks. Claire tried one last desperate move. She showed up at my door at 7 a.m. with a box of sorry muffins, and that same throaty laugh turned into fake tears. "Emily, we were like sisters on the board. This is all a huge misunderstanding. If we could just talk." I didn't even open the screen door. The only misunderstanding was me thinking either of you had a conscience. The muffins are probably paid for with my fines anyway. Take them to the food bank. Maybe they'll accept evidence as charity. She stood there sputtering until a news camera van slowly drove by, filming the whole exchange. Her face went viral by noon with the caption, "HOA Karen's deputy begs for mercy." The community center became ground zero for the new era. The old slideshow equipment stayed up, but now it ran a continuous loop of the evidence for anyone who wanted to watch, purely for educational purposes, of course. Residents started a petition to rename the annual meeting the Emily Lawson Integrity Day, and I actually had to talk them down from engraving my name on the podium. I just wanted my bird feeder back, I told them. The rest was a bonus. Karen and Claire's social media became ghost towns overnight. Karen's Instagram, once filled with perfectly staged community pride posts, now had thousands of comments from former residents across the country sharing their own HOA horror stories. One particularly savage reply read, "You find my grandma for a garden gnome, but kept a 12-foot flamingo in your yard? Karma called. She wants her clipboard back." The comments were brutal, hilarious, and completely unstoppable. Even the local paper ran a front-page story titled, "The President Who Preached Perfection While Stealing the Nest Egg." The black humor peaked when the city finally revoked the HOA's charter pending the fraud investigation. For the first time in 15 years, people could paint their front doors any color they wanted. One neighbor immediately painted as bright purple and threw a block party to celebrate. Another planted tomatoes right in the front yard, where Claire had once yanked them out herself. Every violation notice ever issued by Karen was ceremoniously burned in a big bonfire at the community pool, the same pool she claimed needed emergency repairs that somehow funded her vacation to the Bahamas. I sat on my porch that evening watching the sunset, the same porch Karen had once measured for non-compliant potted plants. My lawn was exactly the length I liked it, slightly longer than her sacred 2 inches, and nobody was coming with a ruler. Thomas stopped by with a six-pack. The audit's already turning up more dirt. Turns out they were planning to use your house as collateral for a personal loan once they foreclosed. 18 months, just like they said. We clinked bottles. To patience, I said, and to never trusting anyone who wears an embroidered polo, unironically. The real victory wasn't the fines they'd have to repay or the lawsuits stacking up. It was the look on Karen's face when she drove past the neighborhood entrance the next week and saw the new sign the residents had voted on, "Welcome to Willow Creek, where rules apply to everyone." She didn't wave. She didn't even slow down. Just kept driving. Her perfect blonde bob, probably still a mess from the last time she tried to control anything. As for me, I finally hung that bird feeder I'd been fined for. 2 of them, actually. And when the new board election happened a month later, I didn't run. I didn't need to. The neighborhood had learned the lesson I'd taught them the hard way. Quiet endurance can be louder than any clipboard ever was. The beige tyranny was dead. The lawn stayed green. The smile stayed real. And for the first time in years, Willow Creek Estates actually felt like the paradise it had pretended to be. The final chapter of the Karen era closed with the kind of poetic justice that made even the most cynical neighbor believe in karma again. 6 months after that fateful annual meeting, the state investigation wrapped up with criminal charges against both Karen Harrington and Claire Montgomery. Embezzlement, forgery, conspiracy, and a laundry list of HOA-specific fraud that the prosecutor said set a new standard for suburban corruption. They both pled guilty to avoid trial, probably because the video evidence was too damning to explain away in front of a jury. Karen got 18 months in a minimum security facility, the same number she'd casually tossed around while planning my financial ruin. Claire got 12. The judge reportedly told them, "You spent years telling people how to live. Now the state will tell you." The money they'd stolen, nearly $400,000, was ordered repaid in full, plus interest. Every resident who'd ever been fined received a prorated refund check in the mail with a note from the new board, courtesy of the former management. I framed mine. It wasn't about the cash. It was about the principle, the same principle Karen had pretended to uphold while breaking every rule in her own thick binder. The neighborhood transformed in ways she would have hated. Front doors were now a rainbow of colors. Holiday lights stayed up until February if people wanted. Garden gnomes multiplied like rabbits. And the new HOA president, a retired teacher who'd been fined $900 for excessive school spirit flags during football season. Her first official act was to burn the old rule book in a public ceremony and replace it with one page. Don't be a jerk. Use common sense. I still live in the same house, still pay the same mortgage, but everything feels lighter. The mailbox no longer brings dread. The community meetings are now potlucks instead of power plays. And every once in a while, when a new resident moves in and asks about the old days, someone pulls out their phone and shows them the viral clip of Karen's face when the screen's flipped. The story has become Willow Creek legend, told at block parties, whispered to newcomers, and laughed about whenever anyone complains about a minor inconvenience. As for me, I sit on my porch most evenings watching the sun set over the perfectly imperfect lawns. The bird feeders swing gently in the breeze. 2 of them now, and nobody measures a single blade of grass. I think about that night, the unlocked door, the laughter, the 15-second recording that changed everything. I never confronted them in private. I never screamed or cried or gave them the satisfaction of seeing me break. I just waited, watched, and struck exactly when they thought they'd won. That's the real lesson, I suppose. The loudest Karen on the block can scream about standards all she wants. But when the evidence hits the big screen in front of everyone she tried to control, even the thickest rule book can't save her. Willow Creek, is free now. And so am I. The end.